All right, we want to find the sine inverse of negative 1/2 and the sine inverse of negative rad 2 over 2. All right, so first things first, right? If the sine inverse, okay, of negative 1/2, right, this has to equal some angle, right? Remember, we're dealing with the inverse function. So it must be that the sine of theta, whatever this angle is, right, that has to equal negative 1/2. Okay? Now, if you look at the unit circle, right, if you look in the unit circle, it actually turns out that the sine of 7 pi over 6 is equal to negative 1/2, and the sine of 11 pi over 6 is also equal to negative 1/2. Okay? So then that's the question, right? Does that mean that we have two answers here? Does that mean that this equals 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6? And the answer is no. Okay, first things first, there can only be one answer. Okay, we cannot give two answers here. So then, well, how do you know what the answer is? Is it 7 pi over 6 or is it 11 pi over 6? Right, and the main thing to remember about the sine function and the sine inverse function, I should say, okay, if the sine inverse of y is equal to x, for example, right, this angle x, whatever x is, it has to be between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. Okay, essentially, we're restricting the domain, okay, and the range of the sine function and the sine inverse function. So what does that mean? What does that mean to be between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2? Okay. Essentially, this means that x has to be in either quadrant 1, okay, which is a positive angle, or x is in quadrant 4, okay? But in quadrant 4, we must make this angle a negative angle, okay? So, okay, let's take a look. 7 pi over 6, that's in quadrant 3, so we can't use that one. 11 pi over 6, that's in quadrant 4, right? But remember, in quadrant 4, we have to give the answer as a negative answer. The angle has to be between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. Okay, so for this answer, we'll take that 11 pi over 6 and find what's coterminal. We'll subtract 2 pi from that. That gives us negative pi over 6. So this answer here is going to be negative pi over 6. Right? It's not going to be 7 pi over 6. It's not going to be 11 pi over 6. This answer is negative pi over 6. So then for negative rad 2 over 2, right, we do the same thing, right? The sine of theta must equal negative rad 2 over 2. Okay? Now, of course, we know that sine is equal to negative rad 2 over 2 at 5 pi over 4 and also at 7 pi over 4. Right? But then you have to remember the domain, right? Okay, so for the inverse sine function, the angle has to be either in quadrant 1 or quadrant 4. Right? So that means we can't be this one here, right? Can't be 5 pi over 4. 7 pi over 4, though, that's in quadrant 4. But the answer must be negative. So we'll take that 7 pi over 4. We'll subtract 2 pi from that. And we get negative pi over 4. Okay, so this answer here would be negative pi over 4.